Welcome to everyone. I'm going to take just a few minutes here to talk you through the fundamentals of commercialization and how I view the key steps towards getting prepared towards gearing up for a launch. So the we kind of break down the way you look at a launch into multiple stages. But obviously, where it all starts is listening to the market and understanding what's happening in the market from the standpoint of competitors and trends and patient and physician views and many other factors. And from that listening, from that data, we try to then derive unique insights into how our therapy or product or diagnostic, whatever the technology may be, how it fits in with the marketplace and where it can deliver the most value. And then we move on to building our strategies once we have our insights and we set those strategies down. And then we take a lot of time interacting with customers and getting feedback from our customers in the marketplace in terms of whether we have the strategies right. Uh, so it's an iterative process, but it all leads up to what I like to call integrated launch planning, and that's when we sit down with all of our interdisciplinary teammates and pull together all the activities needed to launch a product and put it on a plan, put it in a schedule, and have a lot of different connections. We'll talk about that in just a bit. From there, we get started, and it's important to manage that plan and follow the plan, make revisions as needed, and take us all the way up to product launch. And if we do it well, we'll be ready for launch at our uh, prescribed time. And then we'll put the product into the marketplace and listen to customers in terms of how well we've done and make adjustments as we go. So that's sort of the overview of the stages of what we'll be talking about. So this is a busy slide, and it's not here to read everything here, but the idea behind this is there are many different activities. Most of these that you see on the slide are commercial activities that take place ranging from phase one all the way up until phase three studies, pre-launch, and then launch. And many of the things on this slide really represent sort of the foundational building blocks of preparing to launch a product. We start all the way back in the beginning with a thing we call the future disease landscape, where we take a look out into the future and try to get an idea of where therapies are going. And then as we move through into phase three, we begin to finalize things like the value proposition and market access plans, and we've got our positioning, and we're moving into messaging. So you can see it's a continuum of activities. All of these are critical. All of these need to be managed and scheduled. This is what brings us back to the importance of the launch plan, um, because there are many things to do. And I'll point out again that what you see on this slide are all mostly commercial activities. Each one of our colleagues in other departments, product supply, medical affairs, health outcomes, they all have their own parallel activities that are going on that need to be coordinated and interconnected with these commercial activities. So we'll go to the next slide. So, what's important about doing a launch well? Well, I'm a big advocate of comprehensive planning. And by building a comprehensive plan that's live and dynamic and includes all of the key activities between medical, between marketing, between market research, and patient advocacy, all of the various groups that may be involved, we can keep track and we can rely on each other to deliver inputs and necessary data in order to get our tasks completed. So some important aspects of planning, everything has to be synchronized across various departments. you can imagine that the positioning of a product can't be done until the medical affairs group gives you a perspective on the data that's coming for the product. And so you need to know the timing of when things are available. You'll get top line readouts from studies, which kick off a lot of activities in finalizing various elements in the promotional messages. So everything has to be synchronized and scheduled. Everything has to be complete. We have to get everything that we can think of on in the plan. We have to understand what's important and identify key milestones and understand where to focus along the way. And then another big thing is accountability. Everything in our launch plan has to be linked to an owner, and that owner is accountable for delivering that element of the launch plan. Um, if it's not linked to someone, then things can go adrift and you can lose track of things. And if we've identified everything in there as important, then somebody's going to have to deliver that element on time in order for us to be successful. So having a plan is good and building a good plan is important, but unless we execute on that plan flawlessly, we're not going to make it to the finish line. So part of that flawless execution is making sure that our leadership is endorsing the plan, that they've okayed what we plan to do, and that the team is empowered to enact that plan. Um, it really, the ownership of that launch has to be on the launch leader and the surrounding team to get the job done. We have visibility here. So we need ways of being able to report to the organization how well we're doing, how well we're tracking towards our milestones. So visibility is key. And we'll need a series of reports and dashboards and various other elements that we can report to ourselves on progress, but also to our stakeholders within the company and our leadership to keep them up to date because we might identify challenges that may need decisions for resources and other key things to stay on track. Urgency is a key element of what has to happen with the launch. You all may have experienced this. There has to be a sense of urgency among the team to be able to get resources and to focus on the work that needs to be done. I say this because we all seem to think we've got plenty of time. We might be 2 years away from approval or 3 years away from approval, but that time slips by quickly and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And then the final element here is flexibility. We need the ability to read what's happening with our plan, understand our progress, and make course corrections as necessary. And we may identify things like bottlenecks or delays that will need us to be able to escalate the situation to senior leaders, maybe need more resources or a change of resources to overcome an obstacle. And we'll need to have contingency plans based upon where anticipated bottlenecks might occur. The one thing we don't want to happen is, before I move on to the next slide, is we don't want an unexpected bottleneck to delay a launch, because losing a month or 2 or 3 can be catastrophic in a product launch, especially in a competitive setting. So all of these things are important to be able to track our progress and understand how well we're doing. And when things arise, we need to be able to take action quickly to make adjustments. So we spend a lot of time talking to, if we go back one slide, to launch teams. And one of the things that that I've been able to collect along the way is some best practices that we see of high performing launch teams. First is they start planning early. It's very difficult to plan for a big product launch when you're a year from expected approval. You need more time. It takes a lot. Sometimes it involves building an organization or building a sales force or training a sales force. or educating um, medical professionals, patients, parents, caregivers, and these things do take time. Um, Another best practice that we endorse is having a single global plan. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's detailed plan, everything from manufacturing and everything from regulatory or medical has to be in the central plan, but we need to have all the key highlights in our plan that we can have visibility of, synchronize them so that all departments are working together on the same schedule, and then track that plan along the way. Um, the third thing is commitment. We need a commitment from everyone involved to stick to the plan and not run off and do something different that might take us in different directions. Uh, Another best practice that we see is that the plan is owned and maintained by a launch manager. Now, nowadays, there are a lot of different tools that are available where various um, participants on a launch team can manage their own aspect of the plan, and that can work well too. But this practice, I think, is good by having a project manager or a launch leader that is tracking everyone's progress and able to interact with the multidisciplinary team and report back to whoever the global launch leader is on the progress of the launch. We need to be organizationally aligned. So the key elements of the launch have to be agreed to and aligned among all departments. There needs to be clear governance. There needs to be frequent communications, monthly team meetings. There might be a launch oversight committee, keeping everyone informed, and then follow that plan. We talked about making changes, but once you have a plan, follow it and execute flawlessly. So this slide is a little busy, but the point of this slide is to try to, if we go back one,
Yes.
uh, if is to try to once again emphasize the value of integrated launch planning. Um, you can imagine on a global launch, you might have country level or market level plans. You might have a, um, a global level plan with high level deliverables that each of the countries needs in order to execute on their plan. And you might have important markets like key European markets that might be the lead in getting into the market with the product or the drug or the diagnostic, whatever it might be, which then really impact how other markets will follow. So again, talking about all the various things that you can do with a well-developed plan, managing resources, reporting on progress, understanding staffing and resource needs for the future, and having everything at your fingertips so you can have a health check of your launch effort at any time that you need. So, as we're building a launch plan and as we are putting in all of these milestones and ingredients, the question comes up quite often in launch planning as to okay, when are we going to be ready to launch? And that's an important question. Some might say, well, immediate upon regulatory approval, or 6 months after approval, or 3 months after approval. But really, the question comes down to when are you going to be ready to deliver the desired experience that you want your customers to have with your product? That might be right at approval, or it might be 8 months after approval. But really, the best answer to the question is when you're ready to deliver the desired customer experience that uh, physicians, healthcare workers know how to use the product, they know what to expect, patients know what to expect, payment is in and reimbursement is in place, safety tracking, many different elements that are involved. In some of our gene therapies, it may take extensive education in terms of how to administer the product and where to administer the product. There may be issues of getting patients to centers of excellence. All these things really have to be in place in order to be able to deliver that desired customer experience. So it's really not a race to the approval time end line. It's really a race to that readiness state when you're ready to deliver that desired customer experience. And so, as you can see, the building that customer experience after you've gathered all your market data, after you understand what your strategies are, you've tested those, or you've gotten feedback from the marketplace, and you've got your plans in place. It's time to focus on the customer themselves and ask the team, what is that experience we want to deliver, and what do we have to do and complete and prepare for in order to be able to deliver on that experience. And sometimes this leads to a difficult decision where you realize that you may not be ready for launch right at approval. And it may take time until all these elements are in place. But what we've seen in our experience is it's worth waiting that time because you don't want to risk a less than desirable experience in customers' hands where they have a negative experience or they have problems with the therapy, or physicians don't know how to administer or utilize your product appropriately and have a suboptimal experience when using it. And so what we tell our colleagues and customers and clients is that this takes a lot of planning. This takes a lot of understanding of what your goal is in the marketplace, and this sort of customer experience planning is really layered over top of this integrated launch planning in order to make sure that you are going to maximize on the impact of the product in the marketplace so it may deliver its value and be used optimally by patients and physicians and other healthcare professionals that will use the product. So a lot of work goes into this, and this is really layered on top of the launch plan once you get your integrated plan in place. And once you have that all in place, then it's a matter of that flawless execution, following along the plan, and tracking to your completion date.
Thank you, Kevin, so much. This was just a rehash of a lot of experiences that we shared and a lot of unexpected things that we managed along the way. And I think what I really enjoyed from your presentation is the capture of the entire working environment and team environment that needs to come together. And I had a privilege to work under your leadership and learned a lot. And I think that across all of the launch teams I've been privileged to collaborate with, that closeness, that communication is essential. So thank you so much for sharing that.